But, he's going to have to get over a bunch of hurdles like qualified immunity and other privileges that the DOJ will invoke. That the defendants who worked for the DOJ will invoke soon. But of course, we're going to keep our eye on this one. Jim Jordan was spied on. Absolutely scandalous. Every single Republican should be up in arms. The Congress should be focused on forming committees to impeach the judges, to hold formal depositions in public or behind closed doors. Everybody should be subpoenaed. There should be questions about everybody who approved the charges, signed off on the charges, and they should be fired if they're still there at the DOJ and the FBI. But we'll keep our eye on this one, my friends. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do. All right. Now we paused again because I think we just got booted off YouTube for whatever reason. But trying to fire that one back up. Looks like we are back up over there. So that's good news. All right. So we're just going to keep this train on the tracks. Very sporadic live streams on some of the platforms today. But we're back. We're back. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, internet has been wonky on my end, and I think it's been a house-wide or maybe a neighborhood-wide thing. All right, but hopefully we're coming in. I think locals, Rumble has been good. Locals has been good. Rumble didn't freeze. YouTube, hopefully coming back on. All right, so we're still good. We got some other segments to attend to today. And so let's get right to it. Here we go. In this one. Major battle over media access continuing in the Charlie Kirk assassination case. Of course, Tyler Robinson is the name of the defendant. And a bunch of stuff just hit over there in the court of Utah. You can see several filings. November 20th, November 19th. We had some additional updates. And we're battling over access to the proceedings. The media, some time ago, they came in and they said, you know what? It would be very nice if we could be a part of any questions about closing judicial proceedings. So back here in earlier November, media wants to know, what are you doing at these secretive hearings? There was a hearing that took place on 10/24 that we never got to hear anything about. It was all sealed right here. You can see October 24th, sealed. We want audio. We want transcripts. Didn't get any of it. Then we had other hearings, and we've seen Tyler Robinson one time in court. Remember, the other hearings that we've had here are chronicled in our mind map, which is loading right now. We saw Tyler Robinson the first time on 9/16. His second hearing with no camera, no audio was 9/29. And then we had a 10/27 hearing. Once again, no camera, no audio. And we had a hearing in between. It was on 10/24 and it was locked down. So the media then came screeching in. They said, hey, you can't have these secretive hearings without us. And we want to be coming in here as intervenors. We want to be actually included in the proceedings. Utah code says that we're allowed to do that. So there's been a back and forth. You can see prosecutors are weighing in. State responded to the media intervention. Defendant Tyler Robinson is also objecting to many of these things. You can see here objection to the state's motion. And so we're going to break down exactly what is happening here. I've got all the documents queued up. We'll pull it together. But there was also this other story. People questioning missing evidence. The headline from another local Utah news agency called KUTV shared that 2 News investigates. It discovers possible missing evidence in the Charlie Kirk murder case, which is a very curious thing. Says 2 News investigates uncover possible missing surveillance video of Tyler Robinson turning himself in to the Washington County Sheriff's Office just days after the alleged shooting and killing of Charlie. Washington County Sheriff called Nate Brooksby. He said, our job was not to interview. Our job was just to get him there. Within the hour, my friend drove Tyler and his parents to my office where he was greeted by plainclothes detectives, right? And the self-surrender was a huge part of the story. The FBI had no idea who did it. We played the video clip here of the FBI agent saying, do you have any ideas? No, we got no idea right now. Next morning, Boom, dude turns himself in. So we're all asking, okay, well, how did that self-surrender process happen? They said, well, 2 News filed a public records request with the Washington County Sheriff's Office for video showing Robinson entering the county jail or the holding area and video of him in the holding room. They responded to the public record request. Quote, "We do not have any records responsive to this portion of the request as Tyler Robinson did not go to or enter the jail area." Wrote a records officer at the sheriff's office. He did not go to or enter the jail area. Did you put him in custody? Holding room video was denied as part of the investigation. So did not go to the jail area. Is that a separate provision? So he's just in holding and he doesn't go to the sheriff's jail. He goes to holding and then they transport him to another facility. This stuff actually matters, okay? You have to understand where your defendant is. And if you're a defense attorney and you've gotten those 2 a.m. phone calls, somebody got arrested for a felony. Police just executed a warrant, broke in and took him and he's gone. And your job is to go find and track down that client. And it's often a nightmare because they're from this, who knows what precinct they were taken to, what division, where they're at. It's a mess until you can find them and you got to track them down for their arraignment, initial appearance. But holding room video was also denied. You have to, where was that person? We don't know. A few weeks later, 2 News re-upped their request in a more generalized fashion. They said, okay, well, how about maybe it's not the jail area. Maybe that's like, you got to be specific with these records requests. Or they're like, nope, not applicable. Don't have anything. Well, how about him walking into the building? Any video of him walking into the building? They said, our office does not have any applicable records responsive to this request, as the surveillance footage is no longer available after the 30-day retention period. Deleted. Wow. When asked if the video was shared with any law enforcement or legal agency, the department responded, "It is my understanding it was never sent out to any agency." Incredible. So nothing saved from one of the, if not the biggest political assassination of our lifetimes. 2 News took questions to Rudy Bautista. He's a criminal defense attorney there. He says, yeah, for the state of Utah, like the prosecutors, who've done, as far as we know, a terrible job so far in terms of access and transparency. They are agreeing to close down the proceedings, even though Erica Kirk says, let cameras in. We would certainly hope that this video is available. If in fact it has been destroyed, it's very concerning, says a local 26-year Capitol attorney there. And if it has, then it's very concerning that they're telling you they don't have it. If they no longer have it, I would have expected to say that this video has been provided to Utah County law enforcement, but instead he's like, this letter says, in my opinion, as trying to shut the door and not give you free access to the press. Bautista said the video evidence of Robinson turning himself in would be crucial for the defense work of mitigation, right? The defense wants that too, to say, look, he came in and surrendered. He was in a manic state when this all happened. He did it, but look, like, don't give him the death penalty. He voluntarily surrendered. He was in a state of insanity. Look how compliant he was. Bautista said video was necessary. He also believes the case involving Tyler Robinson, who has been charged with crimes, is not a death penalty case. He says Mr. Kirk, by all counts, was a great man, and we encourage justice, but this is not a death penalty case. He says he looks at the alleged murder weapon. He believes that since only one shot was fired, the weapon didn't allow for any automatic fire. There's not an aggravating factor to warrant aggravated murder. Interesting. Because if it's not death penalty, then their argument for why this case has to be so locked down is absolutely gone. I think it's already gone anyways, just based on the fact that you can protect the sanctity of the case with other tools of a trial like voir dire and things. Now, the risk of hitting someone else isn't really there. That's why I believe that the aggravating factor is really weak now. And why it was charged that way? Politics. Now, prior to Robinson's arrest, many political figures were calling for the death penalty. But he says, if you're looking at this objectively, it suggests abuses in our higher government, maybe because of the political charge, because of the death penalty. All right, anyways. So they're saying evidence is missing. Of course, we've been screaming about turn the cameras on. Let us just verify that this guy's in court and just see his face. I believe he's there. There's no evidence to show he's not there. But if you're not giving the public access when we've had tons of access to all of the other defendants that we've covered here. We've covered Kyle Rittenhouse. He was convicted in the court of public opinion about 100,000 times before he ever stepped foot in trial. He was convicted. The media every day. Look at him shooting people on the streets. Same thing with Derek Chauvin. Every day he was convicted. We had everybody talking about it. 9 minutes on the neck. Everybody was talking about it. They didn't protect his rights. They didn't care too much about Kyle Rittenhouse. They didn't stop themselves, judges, from saying Trump was this, that, and the other thing constantly as he was being prosecuted in the middle of an election. So spare me the lecture about the sanctity of a trial when it comes to Tyler Robinson, the Charlie Kirk alleged assassin. I'm not that worried about it because you weren't worried about it in any of these other cases. So don't suddenly act like it's now something that needs to be dealt with kids' gloves. Public deserves access, just like we got access to the other cases, and they dealt with those accordingly. So motions filed back and forth, and you can see the defendant, this is Tyler Robinson now, he submitted this. He says, all right, we're responding to the media. Media is trying to come in here and get access to this, but we're not happy about it. He says a couple things have happened. We're filing our responses here, but we want you to know the media interveners, the media came in and said, you guys are locking this down without giving us proper notice. You have to do that. They say, hey, well, this is seeking some of the other things. Like there's also the news media, and they're kind of asking for the same things. And so the defense now, Tyler Robinson, we're acknowledging that the media does have some rights. They have a right to notice. They have a right to request leave to be heard when we want to seal or close a hearing, but we object. We say they should not get extra notice. All they should get is the public docketing system. And we also don't want them to be a party to this case. They are seeking a formal status in this litigation. Defense says the media wants to be an intervener. They want to be notified about secret proceedings. They say they should not be interveners and they should not be notified about secret proceedings other than what you can pull, as I did, which here is the public docket. And the problem with that is that when you go back and you look at these hearings, this is what you see on the public docket. Filed, minutes, sealed, closed hearings. So you don't really even know that it's going to be happening. So you have after the fact awareness of these secretive proceedings that doesn't help you at all. So they say this is significantly broader than is provided by the law. And so we need to balance this out. The media and their intervener status should be denied. They write, the Supreme Court has firmly established that, yeah, of course, the press and the public has a constitutional right to access criminal trials. We know. It's why we scream about it. Now, the Utah Supreme Court, let's see here. Making sure we're still live. Okay, the Utah Supreme Court likewise has recognized a presumptive right under Article 1 that says we can access trials, but these rights, however, are not absolute. Now, while open criminal proceedings give assurances to the public, it's not unfettered. The court knows that requests made of the media about court records, it's critical you consider prejudice. To preserve a right to trial for the defendant, trial courts have an affirmative duty to protect against harm. Now, there's no precedent for granting them intervener status. They're conflating their rights. These rules apply to criminal interveners, but the right to notice is not something that they enjoy. They do cite a Utah Supreme Court decision, but this is very different than what is happening here. After another trial concluded, the media entity filed a petition for an extraordinary writ seeking an order for a closure hearing. And so there's no applicable rule here for the media. Others have argued in prior cases that these other rules should apply, but it doesn't apply here, is what they say. So having now requested notice, the media are entitled to notice and an opportunity to be heard about motions to reclassify court records and about any other closure requests. So you can just tell them you're going to have a hearing, and if they want to demand access to be a part of that hearing or challenge the hearing, Now they have notice to do that. Now, in this regard, they have standing, and it is anticipated that the court will permit the media to be heard on these issues in the manner the court deems appropriate. However, the court should not allow the media to be a named party or even a limited purpose party at all. Doing so would give the media direct notice to all filings, not just those that they're entitled to under the court's order. Doing so also creates concern with security, ensuring that court records are properly classified as private, sealed, or closed, and not accessible to the media from the point of filing to the temporary classification to the court staff, and we make a decision on classification. So without limiting the clear right of the media entities who refer to themselves as the media, this court should not give them some permanent intervenor status. Beyond the relief that Tyler Robinson acknowledges here, as he did in the other response, their motion to intervene should be denied. Here's why. They say the state of Utah is seeking the death penalty. All participants in this proceeding have a duty to ensure that he gets a fair trial. This may at times also necessitate the closure of proceedings or the classification of the filings as private. As aptly stated by the First Circuit, the right to an impartial jury is nowhere near as precious as the defendant is on trial. And so we're going to comply with the court's order. Any relief should also be denied to the media. So the defense attorneys saying, don't let them come in here. Public docket's enough. They can request an opportunity to challenge this, but otherwise they should be precluded from these proceedings. Now, the state, the prosecutors who are actually prosecuting Tyler Robinson, they came back and they said, all right, here's our take. Various media outlets are now seeking an order. They want to be recognized as limited purpose interveners, and they want to be notified, prompt notice, of anything that is seeking to limit access to the filings, the hearings, or any other aspects of the proceedings. They also want an opportunity to be heard on those motions before the things get locked down. Now, the state agrees that the parties should be required to serve the outlets with copies of the motions, and that media outlets should have an opportunity to appear and be heard on those issues. But the state maintains its right to argue in favor of limiting access to filings and hearings as it deems appropriate. Okay, so we'll give them some limited access, but if we want to lock it down, we reserve the right to say we want to lock it down. So a person or entity who's not a primary party may be a limited purpose party, saying there's rules that allow that to happen. Now, as explained below, both court rule and controlling precedent recognize the media members have standing to be heard, and so we think that they should come in as limited purpose parties to address those issues. Saying we agree, we should give them copies of any motion that is now attempting to limit documents, and we agree, opposite to Tyler Robinson and the defense, that the parties should serve the outlets with any motions that seek to limit access to court hearings. So thank you, prosecutors, for at least that. A person who files a motion to reclassify a presumptively public court document must serve the motion on the press. If that motion to seal is contested, the court must then conduct a closure hearing. Members of the media can then come in and be heard. Now, consistent with this rule, the court has already ordered that all future motions go to the press, and we think that works. Now that the media outlets have also requested notice of some motions to close court hearings, the parties should also serve them with those copies as well. Now, they say that the public docket is just enough, but we think that they actually have interest in these proceedings, and so they can come in and get more access. As to the second category of interested persons, the filing of a written notice of a closure will assure that those truly interested can make themselves aware of this, right? As soon as it's filed, the media says, okay, great. They're trying to lock this down. They can come in and make their voices heard. Now, finally, the state agrees with the defense that all participants have a duty to ensure a fair trial. The state therefore also agrees that while there exists a First Amendment right of access to criminal trials, that right is not absolute and can be denied when there is a compelling government interest to lock it down. So if we want to restrict media access when necessary, we can, signed by the Utah County lawyers. Saying so, therefore, the court should grant the media outlets motion, require the parties to serve them with documents, and allow the media to appear as limited purpose interveners. So that's positive, right? It's in the trajectory of more access, not less. But if they do want to lock it down, they will still do that. And as we're reading through this, a part of me is wondering, is that why maybe they said it was a death penalty case so that they would have more justification to lock it down? We just read from this other attorney who's got 26 years of experience out there. He says this is not a death penalty case. And it's being charged as a death penalty case based on aggravating factors that really don't apply, probably political. I can absolutely understand that. I think a lot of people saw what we saw and we all thought, yeah, that sounds right. But if the death penalty then gives them justification to lock it down, and it's not actually a death penalty case, that they're making a death penalty case and the case is being locked down, then I think that is an interesting development. But we got the state responding, and now we see that the defense also responded once again, and I do believe I have that queued up right here. So now Tyler Robinson objects to another filing. The state wanted to amend the publicity order, and they're objecting to it. They say Tyler Robinson, through his defense team, is now objecting to the state's request to modify the publicity order, saying that this court's order is overbroad. It's void for vagueness, or does not agree that it is overbroad or void for vagueness, and it doesn't improperly balance Tyler Robinson's rights. They say he is in the middle of a capital trial. He's got even First Amendment rights, and witnesses might be impacted by this. So we object to the state. They say the first portion of this publicity order tracks the rules. It limits the statements of attorneys. A lawyer who is participating in this should not be disseminating things that are going to prejudice the case. Now, the only arguable differences between that order and this rule are that the order applies to defense and prosecutors and not just to prosecutors. The order identifies a witness and a consultant. But it's worth noting that the publicity order, while it imposes upon counsel for both parties a duty to take care, it does not purport to specifically order non-attorneys to limit their speech. The only persons whose actions are subject to judicial supervision are attorneys, and that is because the order merely makes it specifically enforceable in this case, that which is ethically required of all attorneys in every case. All right. Now, while it's true that statements of non-attorneys could violate the order, could result in sanctions against an attorney, the order does not purport to subject non-attorneys to the court's power. It merely places counsel on notice that they have to follow the rules. And so it tells us we shouldn't make statements that interfere with Tyler Robinson's rights to a fair trial. So the state says the court has failed to make findings of facts to support this order. The order entered on September 16th, just days after Kirk's death, and Robinson's surrender, observes that this case has generated a lot of public interest, as we know. So pretrial publicity is of concern. It can taint the jury pool. And again, a lot of that can be fixed with voir dire during jury selection. Then the court made further findings. Said the media interest in this is arguably unprecedented. The judge said photographs and visual recordings of Robinson in jail clothing will be shared. There's a strong likelihood a number of jurors will view these images, and the clothing will look like guilt. The danger of prejudice is compounded by technological advancements, like AI. While the court comments in that order are connected with its conclusion that Robinson shall be permitted to appear in civilian clothing at every hearing, the unprecedented media interest also creates a risk of prejudice, not just images. Any images is going to be accompanied by social media posts, and that's going to harm our case. There's also evidence already in the record of the vast interest in this prosecution by media entities, the defense says, who will no doubt seek to use their investment of time and resources to gain access to this proceeding to maximize how many people see it. Two groups of entities are already trying to get in here and to seek info. Lots of groups like the news media and another group called the media interveners, all the media. Moreover, each hearing in this matter has been accompanied by a request from the media to come in here. While none of the media entities identified here are categorized as lay witnesses, it's clear that any extra judicial statements made by lay witnesses will be published. And so, as the record reflects, this court has already observed we need to warn lay witnesses, don't talk about the case. So the state says we should amend this because it's vague. They say, no, it isn't. It protects our clients' rights. It appears the state has latched onto some other cases from Arkansas. But if they think it's overbroad, what they're really attacking are the rules. So this broad order is very protective, and we don't need to amend it at all. In the motion to amend, the state asks a number of questions about how it should operationalize the use of the term witness. What is a witness? But this is neither vague nor overbroad. A witness is anyone that has personal information, and so they should be covered in these limitations. Well, they say, well, we have no idea who our witnesses even are. And so we can't identify them. Your order is applying to people we don't even know yet. There were 3,000 people there. Now, the state has already provided us with a vast amount of discovery. The bare assertion that 3,000 people were there is a gross exaggeration of witness identification. There's actually fewer people who saw that. That's going to rule out 99% of the attendees who were there. And the penalty phase of this trial could have a much broader list of witnesses. So the state's burden here is not unclear or insurmountable. They have to tell their people not to say anything. It's unclear if their concern is that its attorneys and agents don't have the ability to control their lay witnesses, or that the effort to seek the death penalty may be prejudiced by other agendas, or if the state is concerned that its lay witnesses, some of whom may be among the most highest profile people here, may not be able to speak about this. In other words, why does the state want to allow more people to talk about this? So we don't really know. But their assertion that lay witnesses do not present the same concerns as other people is false. Think about the notoriety of the victim, Mr. Kirk. Think about the politicization of his death and the prosecution of Robinson, the unprecedented media interest in all this. This is why we need to have extreme protections of this case. Do not amend the ultimate protective order so that more people are limited against saying things than less people are limited against saying things. All respectfully submitted by the defense team for Tyler Robinson. And so the battle will continue. We know that the court has scheduled a hearing, I think, coming up soon. Let's see. We have an in-person review hearing, okay, coming up on December 11th. And so we'll see if they turn the cameras on or if in-person means for everybody else except Tyler Robinson. But the question ultimately that we'll want answered is, to what extent can the media participate in this? To what extent do they deserve notice? Can they lodge objections if they're going to be having secret hearings like they did before? What level of access do we get to those materials? And of course, we want all the access. So we'll see what happens. But that's the latest in the Charlie Kirk case. We'll keep our eye on this one. Thanks for subscribing and joining as we do. All right, now we got one final segment, my friends, and then we'll hear from you on the day. Kash Patel now being sued by this guy, a gay-fired ex-FBI agent who says that he has been improperly dismissed because he had a pride flag on his desk at the FBI. So now he's suing, saying, Kash, how dare you? CNN reporting he was a veteran FBI employee. We'll see. He sues the Bureau because of his flag that was on his desk. We got the lawsuit queued up, but it was an LGBTQ plus AA expialidocious flag. His name is David Maltinsky, worked there for 16 years and was almost done becoming a special agent before Kash said, you're gone. After CNN reported the firing, 2 veteran FBI employees said on condition of anonymity that displaying the flag on one's desk was normally allowed, but not anymore. Since Trump came in, he's vowed to rid the federal government of woke ideology. And now this dude got fired. So he sued. This is taking place in the District of Columbia, Maltinsky versus Patel. And here is what he is claiming happened. He says, all right, Kash, you're being sued. So is Pam Bondi and the FBI and the DOJ going after everybody. So David, he says, you know, oh gosh, what a pretentious way to open this up. On September 11th, 2001, David was 11 years old. In the months following 9/11, he determined that someday he would serve his country. In 2008, he took the first step in that journey. He volunteered as an intern assigned to FBI LA. Then in 2009, he entered public service, joining the FBI as a full-time employee. Yeah, you mean he got a job. In an operational support role assigned to a team investigating public corruption in LA. In 2014, he was promoted to serve as a staff operations specialist, an intelligence role in which he supported the FBI's efforts to prevent and combat cyber attacks. Then, on June 12, 2016, 49 people were killed and 58 people were wounded in a mass shooting at Pulse in Orlando, Florida. And Maltinsky, a gay man, was horrified by the nightclub attack. Everybody else was. What does gay being have to do with that? You don't want 49 people shot and killed and 58 shot and wounded. But as a gay man, he's extra horrified. So in response to the shooting, he resolved to support the FBI's then existing diversity initiatives, which he hoped in turn would strengthen the FBI's capacity to prevent and respond to these attacks in the future. How? No one knows. The FBI encouraged and honored his work by awarding him the 2020 Director's Award for Excellence. For what? Outstanding service in diversity and inclusion. I guess by just existing, as a gay man. In 2022, the AG for the DOJ, 2022, that's Merrick Garland, awarded Maltinsky the Equal Employment Opportunity Attorney General's Award, the highest award for, I guess, being a gay man. Now, in special recognition of his efforts to improve the FBI, like maybe with like flags or something, in June 21, they entrusted to Maltinsky 2 pride flags that had flown from the flagpole located in front of LA. And he displayed one of those flags at his workstation, okay? So they sound like big flags, not like a little, thing like this, like a big, that you hang on a flagpole. Huge. So they give them to him because as a gay man, he was increasing the diversity of the FBI, which somehow leads to mission readiness. So they give him one of these big flags. He puts it on his desk. Then in October 2025, the whole world changes. Fascism's taking over. Everyone's getting murdered. Everyone's getting kidnapped off the streets, blah, blah. Maltinsky was on the verge of achieving his childhood dream of becoming an FBI special agent. Having worked for over 16 years as a non-agent employee of the FBI, he applied to and was accepted by the FBI Special Agent Training Academy at Quantico, Virginia. Then, on October 1st, after successfully completing 16 weeks of the FBI's 19-week training program, so close, Maltinsky was handed a letter terminating his employment. Oh, no. The letter was signed by Patel. In the letter, Kash wrote that he had, quote, determined that Maltinsky exercised poor judgment with the inappropriate display of political signage in his work area during his previous assignment in the LA field office. In short, Patel fired Maltinsky for displaying a pride flag at his workstation that had been flown by the FBI, they say. And then it was given by the FBI to Maltinsky. Yeah, but that was the gay FBI. This one's not gay anymore. The defendant's discrimination against Maltinsky for engaging in protected speech at his workstation was a clear and brazen violation of the federal law and the Constitution. So he requests that the court review the fact that he got fired. This is an attack on his free association. Well, he can be freely associated with another agency or not. And his future has been freed up. You're not entitled to achieve your childhood dreams. That's not a right in America. violated his Fifth Amendment rights for equal protection under the law. He seeks equitable relief and vindication of his constitutional right. We have zero sympathy. Remember when they were firing everybody for not getting the jab? You said, actually, I'm not going to put a foreign object in my body that's created by some maniacs in some lab somewhere. No, thanks. I said, well, you're fired. And they all got laughed out of there for that. So, you got workplace standards. They said you didn't comply with those standards. You're fired. You don't comply with these standards. You're fired. Get out. This court has jurisdiction. And he says here, he's a former employee of the FBI. Never an agent, though. Probably not ever going to be an agent. Not anytime soon. From August 2009 to March 14, he was an operational support technician. And he was embedded in public corruption. Yeah, great job out there in LA. There's no corruption out there. His duties and responsibilities included a bunch of things. He got information. He used the computer. He got on-the-spot awards and time-off awards, and he put them all on his refrigerator and told his mama. Says in April, Maltinsky was promoted again. Over the years, he was embedded on national security and cyber squads, and he received a bunch of awards. He was also part of a group reorganized for its response to Sony Pictures and what happened with Sony. They got attacked by Korea, and he got another award. Wow. He then went overseas. He went to Nigeria to support cybercrime, combat cybercrime, and all those Nigerian princes who were ripping off our seniors. That's a good one. Maltinsky applied to become an FBI agent, submitted to a background check, met with human resources. They said his background check was favorable, and he started training. But then he got fired. He successfully completed 16 weeks, and he completed every milestone. He got a bachelor's degree in political science from California State. Okay, so a useless degree. It's my degree. I know how useless it is. Patel is sued in his official capacity. He's suing the FBI. He's suing Bondi. He's suing the DOJ because he wants to fly his flag and fulfill his lifelong desire to be an FBI agent as a gay man. In 2015, here's the backstory. The FBI entered its diversity and inclusion program before Trump came in. The purpose of this was to support employees who've been traditionally underrepresented. They want to foster an inclusive work environment and enhance mission success. How? No one knows. Every director back then under Obama was mandated to have a D&I program coordinator. Then in 2016, after the Pulse nightclub massacre, he says, once again, as a gay man, not as just a man, not as a person who says, I hate violence. He says, I really hate violence against gay men. So I'm going to go work at the FBI to, stop violence against gay men. He had a responsibility to help the FBI achieve mission success and helping to lead its diversity initiatives. He communicated to his relevant leadership at the time, hi, I think I can work in the D&I program. Do you have any skills? No, but I am a gay man. Perfect. Come on in. The DACs were an internal body of FBI leadership. They advised everybody on diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility policies. So spanning multiple presidential administrations, they played a critical role on strengthening the readiness of the FBI workforce. So then he joined the Bureau, their Equality Committee. That's how you get into the FBI. Come into our Equality Committee, which was tasked with bringing issues related to sexual orientation and gender identity to the attention of FBI management and to make recommendations on how the FBI can become more gay. In 2019, Maltinsky was elected by the Bureau Equality Committee membership to serve as a chairperson. You're really, really gay. So as an extra gay person, you're like the top of the gays. Come on in here. You're going to be the chairperson now. So in addition, he advised the FBI about people relocating to Alabama. And he served different components of the FBI about all of these issues, LGBTQIA+. Then in 2020, thanks to his leadership, he was awarded an Excellence Award for what? Outstanding Service for Diversity and Inclusion. Once again, I don't even know what that does or what that accomplishes. that is within the FBI's jurisdiction. But all right. Then in 22, under Biden, he was honored for his service and Merrick Garland. They gave him a prestigious honor, recognizing people who made outstanding contributions to advancing equal opportunity, diversity, and inclusion. Of what? Says here, Maltinsky's tenure, and then it ended in February. So then he's no longer, I guess, on the board. So then in June 21, the FBI came in. Joe Biden stole the presidency. They came in. They started flying pride flags beneath the American flag at government buildings, which is basically a take. Flag is like a symbol of your nation, symbol of your identity. So when they hang the pride flags from the Capitol buildings and they hang them under the American flag, it's a symbol of conquest. We have one flag. It's the American flag. That's it. In response, LAFO approved plans for the pride flag to fly from the main flagpole in LA to make it ultra gay and inclusive in LA. On June 25, the LAFO raised a secondary progress pride flag. Don't even know what that is. Don't even care. So many different flags, all the colors, all the permutations, all of them are ridiculous. On or about June 28th, they lowered the progress pride flag, and then they put up the traditional rainbow pride flag, which is, I think, isn't there a divorce amongst the L's and the G's and the B's? Aren't they sick of the T's and the Q's? I thought they divorced. On or about July 1, then the government got the two pride flags and gave them back to the FBI. Then they gave it over to Maltinsky. They're like, hey, you're super gay. You'll love these. He's like, I do love them. They're fabulous. At some point thereafter, Maltinsky displayed the pride flag on the wall, along with a placard 4 inches by 6 inches that described the history. These are big flags, okay? 5 feet by 8 feet. We skipped over that. And another one that's 3 foot by 5 foot. Big. Then they gave them the flags. Then he puts the Progress Pride flag. So it's the 3x5er, the smaller one. He puts that on the wall. And another placard. The display of the Pride flag was consistent with the personnel displaying material at their workstation. He displayed it as a private citizen, okay, and not pursuant to any official responsibilities at the FBI. Well, he could put it as a private citizen at his home. It's on his official cubicle wall. So defendants routinely permit them to display signage. For example, they permit them to display like a blue line flag, the American flag with the blue line, which I also actually have a problem with. I don't like all the, permutations of our flags. The blue flags, the red flags, red lines, blue lines, all the lines on them. It's just the American flag. Okay, we're all America. Says defendants permit employees to display signage like the Gadsden flag, a Revolutionary War era flag that has come to be associated with right-leaning movements. And defendants permit them to display Punisher iconography, a graphic image of a skull that has become associated with anti-government militias. Now, defendant Patel himself distributes challenge coins featuring the blue line, the Punisher symbol, and the Gadsden flag, which are all cool symbols. Yeah, no more gay flags at the FBI. That's just it. At some point, an FBI employee assigned reported somebody to Maltinsky's direct supervisor. They say he's got a gay flag on his workstation. He does? Then a supervisor said, hey, I got a concern from you. And the supervisor said, sorry, I love your gay flag. It's great. So out of an abundance of caution, then Maltinsky requested that the chief division counsel, the lawyer, review the pride flag and whether it was lawful. The chief lawyer said, yep, this gay flag is amazing. You can fly it proudly. Then in early June, in anticipation of relocation to Quantico, Virginia, he cleaned out his workstation, removed the pride flag placard, reported for service as a new agent trainee at the FBI Academy back in June. He was one of 148 people. The class was divided into 3 sections. He went to the Bravo section. It's a 19-week training program. They test various skills, bunch of techniques and things. If he fails tests, he gets thrown out. By October 1, he had successfully completed 16 weeks, including all the tests. On the evening of October 1, he met with his squad in the business center of a dormitory. The purpose of the meeting was to prepare for a training exercise the following day. During the meeting, an FBI field counselor contacted Maltinsky saying, hey man, Special Supervisor, Special Agent April French wants to come see you. Then French instructed Maltinsky that they were going to the administrative building. And he said, well, why are we going there? What's happening? She said, well, I don't know. Front office needs to see you though, so come with me. He then walked to the administration building and entered the executive office suite, where he was directed to a conference room. Moments after Maltinsky entered the conference room, Deputy Assistant Watson and 2 section chiefs entered the room. Watson advised Maltinsky, you're fired, handed him a letter signed by Kash Patel. The letter said, this document provides official notice that you are being summarily dismissed from your position as new agent trainee at Quantico, and you're removed from federal service under my authority as FBI director, effective immediately. After reviewing the facts and circumstances and considering your probationary status, I have determined that you exercise poor judgment with an inappropriate display of political signage in your work area during your previous assignment at the LA field office. Pursuant to Article 2 of the Constitution, you are hereby fired. Get out. You're terminated. Maltinsky said, Watson, are you aware of the facts and circumstances in this letter? Do you know why I'm being fired? He said, no, I'm not aware. The letter had been handed to me that day. I've got the order to get you out of here. He said, well, it's because of my pride flag. Maltinsky said, I don't have any other signage displayed there, so it's because of the pride flag, not the other flags. He then briefly described his career. He says, I joined after 9/11 and after the Pulse shooting. And I worked a lot in diversity initiatives. He's like, I'm super gay. Watson responded that he appreciated his service and indicated that Maltinsky's efforts towards diversity helped the FBI in ways that you'll never know, I'm sure. Watson informed Maltinsky that he was expected to leave the FBI campus that night. And he got to pack and go. Watson said, where are you going to go? He said, well, I have a car, but I'd been terminated my lease in LA. I no longer have a lease there. After consulting with others, he said, well, why don't you spend one more night at the academy so you can pack and prepare? He said, no, I'm out. Packed and left. Everybody left. Shortly thereafter, he then met with Human Resources and said they presented him with several documents, including a document for him to sign saying he's resigning. He declined to sign the document. He did not resign. After processing the paperwork, he returned all government property and packed his bags, exchanged farewells, and then escorted him out. He got in his car and he left. So he says that he has been harmed. Constitutional rights, damage of reputation, depriving him of status, eliminating his primary source of income, and more. And so he is suing. He says, we have freedom of speech, and the government can't fire me for my protected expressions. Displaying a pride flag is now your right as a government employee. You can do whatever you want, I guess, and saying that this is an attack. In fact, the FBI approved this before. It's not partisan. It's not disruptive in any way. It is extremely partisan. It's extremely disruptive. That's why you have it up. That's why you fly it. Nor was Maltinsky's speech made pursuant to his official responsibilities. It's on your desk. It's on your wall. Or made to convey a government-created message, or made to fulfill a responsibility created by his employment. It was his own personal workstation, and he was speaking entirely as a private individual. Well, you can be fired for your private statements and your private stuff on your walls. As set forth, this is retribution, and he is now suing. He says, I have been attacked. This is retribution. It's violating my Fifth Amendment rights, violating equal protection rights. I want a declaratory judgment. He says, there's a controversy here, and I want you to make a declaration. First Amendment rights violated, Fifth Amendment rights violated, reinstate him, shove him back into the FBI, and make him an employee again, give him back pay and any other relief that you think is appropriate. Signed by Christopher Mattei out in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Pro hoc vice, all trying to squeeze on in there in the District of Columbia, which is very blue and probably very gay. So we'll see what these judges say once they get the case. But Kash Patel now being sued. Let's check the docket to see if anything else has dropped. This case was just filed on the 19th. Summons sent over to Kash Patel. And we'll see what happens. I mean, I can absolutely see a judge saying this is a violation and mandating he goes back. Some of the other firings that we have seen have come directly from the president himself, not from Kash Patel. But this is taking place in D.C., and we'll see what the judges have to say about it. But ultimately, I think that the firing capability belongs with the executive branch, with Article 2. They fired a lot of people for a lot less than this. And so ultimately, we'll see if the FBI prevails and they don't have to keep this person who, as a gay man, contributed a lot to inclusivity and equity and all the other things. Nobody knows what that actually does to result in increased arrests or the decrease in corruption. But he really, really wants to be in the FBI. He's had this dream since he was a boy. So he's entitled to the job. He can fly whatever flags he wants. And we'll wait for some federal judge to shove him back in there as we keep our eye on this. But Kash Patel now being sued. We'll see what the DOJ says in response, what the FBI says in response. I'm sure there was a lot more to this story. We know why he was flying the flag. To create attention, to speak his message as opposed to other people's messages, which is why they try to spray the sidewalks with their flags, hang their flags over city capitals, hang them below the American flag. It's like all flags, a sign of conquest. Same reason the Mexicans come in with their flags and fly them around the streets as they're protesting America enforcing the law. So we'll see what happens next when the FBI submits their response. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do. All right, my friends. What a fun stream this has been. Lots of technical problems, but we made it through. If you're joining us on YouTube, I think we had 2 separate streams. For some reason, YouTube just nixed us right in the middle of the stream. I think the others carried on, but YouTube did not. But we're back. And now, my friends, it is time to hear from you. And members, stick around. We're going to have a members-only after party. We'll debrief. We'll hang out for a bit, see what else you have to say about this. But before we do, let's remember how good it feels when you are Nicolas Cage in Con Air and you remember that it's Friday, baby. It's good. Thank you for that one. Chris, welcome aboard. Chris, thanks for becoming a membo. New membos, hang tight because we're going to have an after party. We're going to debrief, see what else you have to say today. Moonchild Pink is here also as a supporter. Chris, Moonchild, great to have you both. Matt O. Strander, 9209, 16 months as a membo, says, I keep forgetting I can post these. LMOA. Laughing my OA. Good to see you, Matt. Thank you for being here, man. 16 months as a membo. It's a long time. Coming up on 2 babies. John Smith, 20 months as a membo. Didn't even know I could post these. So we got a lot of monthly anniversaries, right? I think every month or so you get, is it every month you get a free post? It's awesome. Jeffrey Adams, Rob, you're a ghost. The stream died. I know, Jeffrey Adams. Tough internet today. Jeffrey Adams, thank you for that. Cardinal O. Flanagan, 10 months as a membo, a baby, and then some, says, I wonder if TISH ever prosecuted anyone for doing this. Yeah, I don't know if you're being facetious or not, but she prosecuted Trump for fraud. She said that he inflated certain things to get a better deal on a loan. Like everything that she did, she said that he did. But these were totally different conversations. Trump was making statements of financial, stakes essentially, and the banks would validate those. They were both doing appraisals on property. So there was a natural disagreement about what the total value was that would justify the loan. So there's a natural disagreement. Hers, she just lied about. Ravika says, I was watching Andrew Branca. He had an excellent quote from Lincoln about sedition. Check this out. Shout out to Andrew Branca right next door on all of the tubes. Lincoln said this. Says, must I shoot a simple-minded soldier boy who deserts, while I must not touch a hair of a wily agitator who induces him to desert? He who dissuades one man from volunteering or induces one soldier to desert weakens the Union cause more than a man who kills a Union soldier in battle. Yeah, it's almost like, why the drug dealer is punished more than the drug user, because the dealer is dealing drugs to thousands while the user is just addicted. One person has a different level of evil. Question everything. Where is the federal tax fraud charge? Yeah, it's also an interesting question. Yeah, maybe that's coming. Maybe there'll be another indictment. She's got other properties, so maybe there'll be more coming down the pike soon. Maybe they'll stack that one over in New York if they file there. Good to see you. Question everything. What's up? Rick D. Someone needs to check Fanny's financials and see if her and Tish were both at that hotel at the same time and if Nathan was with Fanny. LOL. Ugh. I don't know what you're implying there, Rick, but can you have Big Tish and Big Fanny in the same room? Or is that like a physics problem? Like if you get two giant masses together and gravity pulls them together, does that create a singularity or a black hole or something? I don't know. That's not a racial comment. It's just a physics thing. Off-label podcast. Okay, I get it now. Off-label's right next door. These judges and prosecutors will hide behind vindictive prosecution because they botched their made-up charges against Trump. Therefore, it's vindictive if he tries to prosecute them. Yeah, that's right. And it applies to every crime everywhere because it's the president of the whole country. So Tish is basically immune from all prosecutions because Trump doesn't like her, according to her rules. Jay Marino, where are the affidavits that establish reasonable cause to believe flight, intimidation of witnesses, and destruction of evidence? Those are the smoking guns for a conspiracy charge. Screw impeachment, never happens. Arrest them. Talk about an existential threat to the Constitution. This was a soft coup. Yeah, the judges are taking over executive function in various different policy maneuvers around the country. This old guy, you can thank the Patriot Act of '01 for the ability of law enforcement to utilize, pen, register, and trap and trace data from phone data. It provides way too much leniency for intrusion into private information. And honestly, didn't Jim Jordan seem like a little bit less agitated than you might expect? Like 2 years of your phones got gobbled up and you're like, well, we're going to bring Jack Smith in and ask him some questions. I'd be like, all right, that's it. I'm going to his house right now. Like other Congress people hold me back. Hold me back. Tony Hay Munkets, what's up? 31 months as a membo. Happy Friday, Tony Hay. Thank you for joining us. And for being a membo for 31 months. I don't even know how many babies that is. That's a lot. More here. I am still a member. Shout out. What is that? Finland? Great Britain, and a thumbs up. I don't know if that's Finland or not, but it looks good. More here. Thank you for being a member, my man. 12 months. Happy anniversary to us. Very nice to have you. E. Texley says, so why is Kash Patel blocking Joe Kent's request for the FBI files on Tyler Robinson? I don't know. Is that confirmed? I saw there was an article about that. And then I think, didn't they post statements like we're all unified? The DOJ has not filed a case. Joe Kent's review would have been covert, so unlikely to affect Tyler Robinson's ability to have a fair trial. Seems sketchy. Yeah, I saw the headlines about that apparently Kash and Joe Kent and Tulsi Gabbard got into it. But I don't know how true that is. The argument, I think, from Kash's perspective was this is our jurisdiction. This is domestic. And they said, well, we're the ODNI. Our job is to interface between all of the other intelligence agencies. And so we want to know what you know and compare that with what the CIA knows, for example, and the NSA and all the things. Renee Sargent, I have a history degree. I have a BS history BS degree. Hey, just like my political science BS degree. Great. Renee Sargent. I liked my degree and I remember a lot of it and I learned a lot. I was fascinated in it, but it's not very practicable. I mean, it happens to be practicable for me based on what we're doing here. And it was good for law school. But if I didn't go to law school and I just left with a political science degree, I'd have to like go and, work for a campaign or something. And, those jobs are seasonal. So anyway, Severus, what's up? Both my pride flags have only 3 colors: red, white, and blue. US and Texas, baby. Yeah, good to see you, Severus. And that's appropriate. You can have a state flag too, but we all acknowledge the state flag is subordinate to the American flag. All of the various flags, like this is my American flag because I'm a cop. This is my American flag because I'm a firefighter. This is my identity because it's like, all right, how about we all just agree that America's great? We just all have the American flag. And the other flags, they have some historical and cultural significance to them. But like the Gadsden flag and all of these other flags, those are in the tradition of America. Pride flags and foreign flags are not. Peng One, what's up? 29 months as a membo. Thank you for being here. 29 months, Penguin. And Jamon Rooney, 1 month as a membo. First month's the hardest, man. Gets easier from there, Jamon. Glad you're here. Thank you for signing up. And Just Rhonda says, because I can and proud. Because I can and proud of it. Trump, flag, fight, fight, fight. More here says, you know, that Scotland place? Oh, it's Scotland. That's pretty close to Finland, right? Kind of in the same region. All right, that's good news. All right, so my friends, thank you for sending those donos in and for being here. Very nice to have you. And now it's after party time. So we're going to head over there. Let's see if we got any comments from our friends on X and whether locals will function for us here today and show us some tips. We do. We got some other tips over here. That one. Rick D shared this one. Maybe we got this one. Let's see. Yes. Okay. So we got a couple other comments. Thank you, Carrie B. K-Bean, Carrie B. Muffin Rando clipping for us. NY says, fact, J. Edgar Hoover, who built the FBI, was gay. Kash Patel seems an appropriate appointment in hindsight. You know, that's a great point. Yeah, wasn't Hoover a cross-dresser? So maybe that guy had a better argument. He should have used that in his motion. Yeah, and Hoover was gay anyways, by the way. And some people say Kash is gay because I think he like lives with some other dude or something, you know, anyways. So he actually might be right. Actually, FBI is pretty gay, just in general. Not even homosexual, but just gay, you know, in general. Anyways, you get the point. Thank you, NY. So maybe he'll win, and maybe he should. Chubby, still enjoying my view of the beach and Catalina Island in the distance while listening. Good show today, once the issues were cleared up. Thank you, Chubby. Yeah, no, it's okay. I'm just going to go throw all my equipment off a bridge as soon as the show's over. It looks beautiful, man. That's a nice place. Let's just look at this and say Woosah for the internet. Woosah for the internet. Nice. All right, so I feel better already. Tactico. What's up, Tactico? Welcome aboard as a supporter. It's going to be after party time here in just a minute. Can't wait to hang out and debrief on the day. Rick D says, room, probably. In the same elevator at the same time. Okay, that must be a second half of a comment that I'm not remembering. At the hotel at the same time. Room, probably. In the same elevator at the same time? That's a different question. Okay, so yeah, so like in other words, one room for them would be good, but if they got into the elevator at the same time, then the elevator might collapse into a singularity and we would all be sucked into a black hole for all eternity. It's too many big tishes and big fannies in the same room. It's like this town's only big enough for the one of us, you know, I think. All right, so my friends, let's say hello to a couple comments on X. See who's joining us over there before we head on over to our members only after party and time. We got Patrick Henry. What's up, Patrick? Thanks for saying what's up over on X. But otherwise, we have no comments over there. Nobody's watching over there. All right, that's fine. So we got, my friends, a beautiful after party coming up. Members, stick around. We're going to hang out, debrief, and see what else you have to say about this. But it has been a beautiful Friday. Thank you for joining us a bit early on the day. We're going to pause here for the afternoon and the rest of the evening. But members, we'll be back tomorrow. It will be Saturday. We'll come back. We'll see what else the day has in store for us in addition to after party time. So come in, stick around. We got a couple of great comments on locals that we'll talk about. And so come join us. As a YouTube member, hang tight. Locals, hang tight. We'll be back in just a jiff. So it has been a beautiful week, my friends. Thank you for joining us and for being here. Thank you for subscribing to our channel if you haven't already done that, and for liking the video on the way out. I hope that your weekend is absolutely outstanding. Big thanks to our mods and meme smiths, including K-Bean in the house, Carrie B, Muffin Rando, of course, Donut Mind Me, John. I'm all out of order. Neuro D, Janek, Dog Digger, Geegum Geegum, Elliot, Just Rhonda, and I think we got our crew. Thank you to our amazing mods, and thank you, my friends, for being here for all the things that you do to make our work here together possible. We're grateful for you. So we'll pause here for the evening, for the weekend. Hopefully you're doing something fun over these next few days, getting outside, getting some fresh air, spending time with friends, family, the people that we love, because we're coming back here on Monday to get into it again. And in order to do that appropriately, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. An amazing weekend. We'll see you right back here on Monday. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, my beautiful friends. Now it's that time where the stream must end. You brought the heat with every chatting line. Together we expose corruption. One more time we dove in the truth where the media hides. Lit up the lies with receipts on all sides. The fight isn't over, but we made them sweat. We ain't done yet, no, not just yet. Because together we are watching the watchers. Truth on our side. Watching the watchers. We won't be denied. Watching the watchers. Eyes open wide. Fighting for freedom with nothing to hide. Drop a like and don't forget to share. And bring a friend who's ready to care.